We are Greg and Leah, the host of Evolve, the #1 podcast about relationships, and not just the tender or toxic romantic ones, but all kinds of relationships with many people, places, and paths.
And we aren't here because we know or understand it all, simply because we are working to evolve and asking others to join the evolution.
So join us in this next episode of Evolve.
Those out there, welcome to Evolve with Greg and Leah. We get to have a special guest this week. This is Rebecca, and I'm going to let her tell her story, what inspired her to come on the podcast, and what you want people to know about your journey that you're so proud of.
Honestly, I don't have a most proud.
Really?
I've spent my whole life hating myself. So now I'm in a place where there's so I'll allow myself to, when something really good happens or something I'm really proud of myself happens, I'll sit there and
give yourself time to celebrate. Yes.
Yeah, which I've never.
Yes. I think a lot of people don't, though. Honestly, we've been trying to do that more now. Like, okay, celebrate this little progress, even if it's really little.
See, I've never had a problem
Start
celebrating my goals, and
really?
I have a really
I can never.
the difference sometimes.
Maybe it's male ego, though. That's
but I
just
have
like,
a
I can
really
do this. I can celebrate this.
I've had, and I don't think I had the ego I had since doing mushrooms.
I take his. I also help.
Changes
pop your
everything.
ego.
Yeah, married to her will destroy. Let me tell you that right now. Every time I come with my chest pumped up, she's ready.
He comes back from the gym literally, and I don't see a difference. He's like, well,
I've been working out. I'm working out. My son and I've been working out.
Okay, this isn't about you. Shh.
It's not.
We're back to Rebecca. About
we come on the same planet.
Yeah, you do.
It's so funny. But no, growing up, I always thought well, first of all, I didn't think self-love was a real thing. I didn't. I thought it was imaginary. I thought these girls were just making this shit up. I'm like, there's no way. But then it started happening for me. And then I realized that I always felt I was conceited. Like I wouldn't allow myself to be proud of myself. I would always you did this one good thing, but don't forget you did 10 other really bad things. Okay. So stay humble, girl. But it wasn't being humble. It was self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And learning how to retrain all that. It's very, very difficult. I can honestly, I do have a most proud.
Oh, you do?
I do. I just came in just now. I've had a lot of trauma, probably more than the normal share.
Yeah.
At least from the research I've done.
Yeah.
And it messed me up a little bit. And then also having that brain we were talking about, how you just absorb whatever's around you.
Right.
And is that ADHD? You said his was labeled that. Were you?
Yeah.
Diagnosed as that? Okay.
I wasn't diagnosed until
until
I was. The first time I tried to get sober, so 26, 27, and the doctor at the facility, she was like, "Yeah, you got some pretty severe ADHD." I'm like, "What is that? What? Huh? That sounds fun. Is it cool?"
Yeah,
But
will that explain all of the issues I have?
Right. And then when I finally got sober this time, I was 40. I got to the point where it was time for sure. And I really, really, really put the work in this time. I was really desperate for it by then. Your kids are your ducklings, Yeah. They whatever you do, they do. And they were making some choices. And I was 1,800 miles away from them in Oregon, and they were in San Diego with their alcoholic dad. And then I'd gotten sober like a month into it, living by myself in a converted garage. My 16-year-old daughter, who is definitely an apple tree situation, calls me and said, "Hey, Mom, I really want to tell you this thing." And she told me about how she'd been drinking and selling photos to grown men for Coke money. And how she was ripping these old dudes off for Molly money. And she does not want to be this way anymore. It was a shock. I'm like, "Where's your dad?" But where was I?
Yeah.
I was in Oregon.
Right.
So she moved up there, and when you start riding your ship, your little ducklings will just follow along. So me changing the trajectory of my life and me making and doing the hard work, and it's really hard. It's so, when you have an ego, when you're an alcoholic and you have an ego like that, it's always everybody else's fault. I'm a victim. Everything, for me.
Yeah.
I had all these bad things happen to me, so I'm allowed to drink this.
Yeah.
Or it got to the point where, hey, I did the dishes today, so I'm allowed to drink this. It's Tuesday and I woke up, so I'm allowed to drink this.
Yeah. Always finding reasons. To honor or celebrate something without.
Or celebrate, or give myself the permission to just keep falling further down because
Well, how long were you an alcoholic then? Like from as young as your daughter, 16 till 40?
I started drinking and using 13.
Okay.
Yeah, 13.
Wow.
I started smoking cigarettes at like 11, 12.
That was his story too. I'm like, oh my god.
Stole my mom's Virginia Slims from her carton in her drawer.
I thought smoking was cool because it was the early 80s, and I remember picking up a
Uh-huh.
butt of a 13-year-old who was just such a wild child, and I would like pretend, but to this day I've never smoked a cigarette, so I don't even know. I've tried to smoke the pot. Listen to me.
The pots. Does she do the pots?
She does the pots.
Like it makes me feel like I have bronchitis instantly, and I'm
Okay.
just like, I don't even like this feeling. So edibles and capsules is like what I prefer if I'm going to do anything.
My parents smoked in the house
natural.
my whole life, and my older
yeah.
brothers they started smoking at like.
And so
13,
yeah, no one in
14
my
too.
family smoked,
Yeah.
so I also didn't have the exposure. And so you're just much more open if that's happening in your home everywhere to
And
take
like you
this
said,
on.
you
yeah.
absorb the personalities of those around you.
Yeah.
My parents did it, so my brothers did it. So this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I watched my grandfather walk in the door after work every day, and there was a bottle of Early Times always on. And he
What's
just-
That's
that?
my
Like,
dad's
okay, so you're talking to someone who's
With-
really
with
sheltered.
Early
so,
Times is Kentucky.
It's Kentucky
Oh,
Kentucky
okay.
bourbon.
Kentucky
Okay.
bourbon.
And my family's from Kentucky, so if we ever touched Jack Daniels, I chose Jack Daniels. Of
course.
But then
You're a
after
rebel.
getting older,
But you'll definitely have to explain things. Like we were talking at the park the other day, and you mentioned that one of the times you were on a binge that you had socked away. What's the
fifth.
name of a fifth?
fifth.
Like a certain amount of fifth, and
yeah.
I'm like, what is
What's
a
a
fifth?
fifth? Yeah.
And then the other girl was telling us like, oh
You
yeah,
know,
it's
the
the
bottle.
bottle that's this big. I'm like,
It's all-
oh
it's
my
all- yeah.
god.
Yeah, we were real thirsty. So my husband, Dave, he's this tiny guy. He's massive compared to how he used to be. He was like when he went to treatment that first time. It took him a couple times. He'd go to summer camp.
Yeah.
We drank 7/5 in 2.5 days,
jeez.
which is a lot. That's
Yeah.
Once you told me the size,
And
then
he
I was
was
like, oh my
100
god.
And he's 130 pounds. This kid. You know
Oh
what
my
I mean?
god.
Like,
Even now?
No, not
Oh,
anymore.
I was
no,
like,
no.
holy cow.
No, now he's
Okay.
like 175.
Okay. I was gonna say.
But when he went to treatment, he was like,
yeah, tiny.
yeah,
Yeah.
He turned yellow.
Oh my god, that's what I said to you on the park. I'm like, wait. How can your body handle that much alcohol?
When you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic forever. And it creeps in. It's very sneaky. It creeps in and goes, hey, maybe you could.
Could you have another?
Maybe you could have
Yeah.
one. No,
Yeah.
no. But every time that pops up, I'm now able to see it through. I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no. But I always see. I'll never forget. He's sitting on the couch and he looks. I'm sitting,
When you guys were drinking these fifths,
when
you're saying.
the moment I said, okay, I'm calling your mom.
Yeah.
Because he was like, the fear on his face and how yellow the palms of his hands were, and he was like, just absolutely,
Yeah.
it was awful. It was
Yeah.
awful.
And you were doing that because you were partying, having fun, or drowning out stuff?
We were just drinking. I mean, we didn't do anything when we met, we were drinking.
Yeah.
That's how we bonded. He allowed me to get worse. I allowed him to get worse.
Right.
We literally worked just to pay for drinking. And even then we drank our rent a lot of the times. We drank on the way to work, on the way home from work.
Yeah.
It was bad.
See, I drank a lot as a young person, but I must have set rules because I
That's smart.
never drank at work.
And you have an
I never even
addictive personality.
As much
so
as
it
I
just
smoked
depends.
pot, I never smoked pot at work except for Saturdays, or if I was the boss.
I didn't start doing that until, again, we're back to that whole adopting personalities, absorbing personalities. I saw him do it, and I was like, oh, you can? Okay. So when I would hang, you people don't realize it, but you seek people who are on the same vibration.
Yeah.
that you're
Oh
on.
yeah.
So
And you
if
will
you're
draw
to-
them in anyways.
Oh,
Even if
yeah.
you're not seeking, I do feel like you will attract that because
They're
vibrations
my favorite
are-
flavor.
Yeah.
I agree
So-
with that. I remember that because I even when I had my own business, I had my rule of I don't get high during work.
Yeah, I would never.
And I think I started it and realized, hey, this is a lot easier in my day when I'm
Takes the edge off.
not even, and now I don't
Especially
even,
for someone who is an ADHD or in some kind of a, like you said, a neurodivergent headspace or just life space. If
This
you're
world is
feeling
not
like you're
meant for
always
us.
overstimulated and it brings them down. So I vibrate really high all the time. So he's like, I just have to take this to get to you.
Yes.
So like for him, he has to come, I guess, did we say like you come down to my level? I forget how we said it, or you have to come up to my level just
I
of
think
just
that-
like
I think
of
what-
just base what baseline is.
when I get up in the morning, and we're not talking about me anymore. We're talking Rebecca's like, all right, we don't have to talk about me no more.
I I'm the same exact way. But that's
Turn
how,
it
that's
all
how
again.
we relate, though. We relate by sharing our own experience.
Right.
So, and then people take it as, oh, you're making this about you.
Right,
I'm not
right,
making
right,
it about
right.
me. I'm showing you this is my experience with
And that's,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
This sounds right to
Yeah.
you, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then if it's wrong, I'll say, oh, no, not like that.
Right.
Like this.
Like
and
So,
vice versa.
so actually, before you say anything else, I want to go back to, because I don't think you got to finish it, your most proud moment.
Oh, yeah. It was...
Yeah.
We got distracted.
Squirrel. My most proud, the thing I'm most proud of is getting myself to a point where my kids are so in love with me and they're so proud of me. Like
Yeah.
hearing the words from my son, I'm so proud of you, Mom.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Because I mean, if that kid never wanted to talk to me ever again, I would understand.
Yeah.
I would totally get it.
He's the oldest.
He's my oldest.
Okay,
yeah.
so he saw a lot more of your
He saw a lot more.
addiction life.
It's
and-
not just that he also is he's also Apple Tree. He's definitely my son. He has a lot of he's also on the spectrum. He has a lot of issues. It's to the point where I didn't have any help. Their dad. I mean, at one point I was on my knees crying, begging my ex-husband, like, please help me. Like, I am so overwhelmed. I didn't at this point did not know anything about any of my neurodivergence. I didn't know anything about any of my traumas. I didn't know. I was drunk the whole time. I didn't know any of these things. So if I'm not able to even regulate myself, how is he going to regulate this kid? And when I ran away, I didn't say ran away. We couldn't stay where we were staying anymore. And I said, hey, look, how about I take my daughter? I'll take the girl. I'll go stay at my mom's for 3 months. And you take the boy. You stay at your mom's 3 months. We'll come back and we'll reset. My mom's in Oregon. His dad's in San Diego.
Oh, that's
So
pretty
really,
far apart.
I
Okay.
ran away from both of them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until later. I didn't really I didn't allow myself to accept that fact until
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm a great mom. I'm perfect. No,
Yeah.
no, it's a mess.
Yeah.
I definitely ran away from him. And during the hardest part of his entire life. You know, I wanted him to come with me, but he had a girlfriend and she had boobs, which was way more important than your mom. You know, so but I didn't fight him either though. I could have put my foot down, like, no, you're coming with me, but I didn't because I didn't want to. I didn't realize. I didn't want to admit that that's what it was. I was so overwhelmed. I did not know how to care. It was beyond my level of expertise, and she was the easy one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I take her to Oregon, and I find out there that. She wasn't actually okay. She just didn't want to burden me because Aiden was so much. She didn't want to burden me.
Yeah.
So
That's who I was. I was the easy kid in that sense. I saw my
glass kid.
older siblings. I'm the 5th down of 8. And I just saw those ones.
Yeah.
How much trouble they caused.
That's
and
called the glass child.
I called it the wallflower. But yes, oh my God, it's funny that you're saying glass child because that was one of my visions that I was I was trying to get my mom's attention and I'm banging on the window at the glass and she just never looked at me.
Yeah.
But my whole life I was spending hitting the
Yeah, and
glass
that's
and she
her.
was so distracted or so hurting or so overwhelmed she couldn't see me because I wasn't using my voice in my childhood.
Well, she may not have even had the bandwidth to be able to help you anyway. And then that's where I was
Yeah.
too. But now seeing them, like me doing all this work, one at a time, like first she came back home to me and we dealt with that. And then he eventually came home to me. And we worked with him as well. And seeing the progress in those two kids, and my stepdaughter as well. She, when we got her, it was like an overnight thing. She called us freaking out one night and then she was at her house from Utah to Oregon in 30 hours and having to reprogram her as well. I'm so proud of myself for being the person that I'm the mom that I always wish I had.
Yes.
That's huge.
Do you feel like you're the dad you always wish you had? Because I feel like I am the same.
I haven't always
feel
been.
like the mom I've got to be. Yeah,
With
true.
my son, I
Yes.
feel like I'm the dad that I wish I always had.
Yeah.
With my daughters, I have a lot of.
But you just said a really great point. Haven't always been. This is a new space.
I suffer from everybody telling me all my life how great of a father I was with my kids. Probably my biggest failure was.
I think the same thing. It's so funny you said that. They use that word because just the other day I look at my son and I think
And-
I feel bad. Like I think that's my biggest failure.
Not that
you
it
weren't there for them in their time.
But the
Yeah.
greatest thing I know about failures is it could turn into your best strength if you let
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
time happen.
Yeah.
And I hope to someday have the same kind of relationship. I don't hope to have the same kind. I hope to have unique relationships, better relationships with my kids than I do now.
But no, I do. I mean, I
But I know
think
what you mean.
going back to that of just like
I'm
you've
very,
always
I'm,
been
I'm
that
very,
parent.
I'm very.
Yeah.
So you have that imposter syndrome where you're like, people tell me I'm so great, but like, deep down, like I wasn't that great. Like, I don't know why you're.
I can relate to your story about running away. I ran away to Orlando to get away from my ex-wife and my, I don't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And I had so much going on in my head. It was going on. Now I look back and my kids needed me the most then.
But you didn't have it to give them. This is how
I didn't have it. And and I like what you just, I'm sorry.
The bandwidth.
No, this is
bandwidth,
the bandwidth. So this is what I've kind of found after many years of figuring out, like I'm learning about forgiveness and letting things go, but the hardest part, especially like when you're an alcoholic, the hardest part is like looking at yourself, right? And because we already hate ourselves, we wouldn't be doing it. Having to look, you already hate yourself. Now you have to look at yourself and how even more wrong you really are.
Right.
Like it's
And I think that's why a lot of people will not go through the process of healing, because you do have to go down before you can go up.
It sucks so bad, but once you get to the other side, it is glorious.
Yes.
But I found, but forgiving myself for those things, like laying in bed at night with my ADHD head, it's just like this. It's like this huge cyclone in my head of all the wrongdoings I've ever done, and the worst person in the world, and the worst mom, and how much I love my kids. But how if you love your kids, why would you like them? Crazy, and it's really hard to find self-forgiveness. But I found like a recipe almost that really, really helps with self-forgiveness, especially with parenting your children, or really anything.
Yeah.
So like if you so say there's like a toddler. Like, the difference between knowing something and knowing the language of something, right?
Right.
Like, I can say, the sky is red. You know what those words mean, but that doesn't feel right.
Right.
That doesn't feel right. So, like, if you tell a 2-year-old, don't touch that hot stove, they know the language of that, but they don't really know why until they touch that fucking hot stove. So, when you know better, you do better. So, you can understand, like, back then, I know people told me I shouldn't drink so much. You probably should drink less, you have these kids. I understood those words, but I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
Right.
So are you gonna like beat up that little kid for touching that hot stove, for not listening to the language you use? You're not gonna, so why are you doing that to yourself? Like you didn't know better. Now you do. Are you doing that now? No, because you've learned those lessons. You're no longer that person. You now know better. In your spirit, you know better.
Yeah.
Not just those words of, you better not do that.
And that takes a lot of time to learn how to parent yourself, because you can't parent your kids until you learn how to parent yourself. And
my
that's
kids grew up
a
together.
Bible verse.
I love
love
that.
yourself
Yeah.
correctly and love. You can't love anybody until
when
you
they
love yourself
say
correctly.
that's true. When they say that you love people to the depth of you love yourself, it is absolutely true. Like the love that I have for my husband, my children, my friends, all 3 of them. That's another part. That's another part, right?
Small world.
Used to have like 40 of them. Now like these were never my friends. You realize like I love them so much. The more every day I fall more in love with myself, which is a big deal. Don't forget, it's also a roller coaster. There's days we have huge dips, and but when it is different. You do love bigger. You love differently.
Yeah.
You love stronger. It's completely different. I love it.
Yeah,
and I realized then I didn't love. How can I
We
love?
establish
think
boundaries too, and
that's been my thing. Is I've had to set boundaries because I was an over giver, because I was the wallflower that I wanted everyone to feel loved. I wanted everyone to feel seen. Everything that I didn't feel, I wanted to make sure all my energy was spent making others feel that. But then I realized, like you just said, you go from all these people in your life to very few, because most of those people were just taking from you, sucking from you. And so now, I mean, we're down to I'd say 3. That's my key number.
And it works perfectly.
And it's fine.
I'm so happy.
But those boundaries have been established for myself, in myself, of I'm not going to overgive here. I'm going to actually not even, if I met you, I would immediately want to make sure you feel great, safe, loved, heard, and you don't know me at all. And I would just give all of that energy out. And then I'd wonder why, you don't ask me anything back. Oh you don't give me anything. And I was very big. I broke a lot of relationships doing this of sending massive emails about how much I care and just thinking about you, and then get nothing back, and I'd be devastated.
And you have these banks, right? Your energy banks.
Oh my gosh, I'd be like,
I'm spending all my energy and all these people that don't matter and don't really give 2 shits about me, and so now I am not only depleted, I'm in debt, and then I go home around my kids and my husband,
and it comes
I'm just
out as
sucking
really
it out of
aggressive.
them, and then I'm wondering why they don't want to be around me.
Yeah,
It
and
doesn't make
it
any
is
sense.
it is a roller coaster because I feel like some days I'm really great at it, and other days I can feel myself. Same as like you mentioned with the alcohol talking to you, like, could you just have one more drink? You could probably have one more drink. It's
Be
been how
fine.
long? You'll be fine.
You'll be
We were
fine.
just talking about
We were
this
just
the other
You're
day.
more healed today.
Yeah,
so-
like it's fine.
So
just try
I
this.
apparently I thought I might have been an alcoholic. I drank a lot.
I think you have addicted attached,
But
like
I
whatever
don't-
the new thing is.
What you're saying to
attached
me
to, but
about like can't go to work, and had I allowed myself to drink at work, maybe I
I wasn't
would.
always that way though. That was like
And
after decades of drinking. Decades.
when you saw someone else do it, like okay, and you were like, oh, maybe I could do
and
this
I
too.
didn't
Yeah.
have, there was nobody around me to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
When I was with my ex-husband and my small children, we would drink on the weekends, right? When they were little, we would just drink on the weekends. And as I got older and more independent, weekends and Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then as you get older, they got older and they wanted less from me. That
Yeah.
it became every day. And then moved to Oregon, but I didn't have anybody holding me accountable. I was like, I didn't have kids around. I didn't have anybody. But I had this other alcoholic dude, right, who
To
was
spend
way
time
worse,
with and-
way worse
yeah.
than me, and he was just as broken. And he was willing to spend share half the rent that was already nothing. I could spend the rest of my money on booze.
Yeah.
It would. I saw him do it. He's a construction worker. He's a carpenter, so he always had a pint in his lunchbox, and in that industry as well. That's just how it goes.
So I have a
Authority
question.
of
Like, you
OE.
said you had to go through a few different times. Do you think each time helped you the final time? Stay tuned for Rebecca's answer to this question. But in the meantime, just a quick commercial break. Are you feeling a little stuck? A little unsure of your next steps? I hear you, I see you, I feel you. Life can be so overwhelming. And sometimes we just need a little extra support, a little extra guidance to help navigate our journey we call life. Hi, I'm Leah. I'm a life coach, not just a podcaster. And I am a life coach that's dedicated to helping individuals uncover their potential and create meaningful, authentic, balanced lives. Through personalized coaching, I empower you to set and achieve your goals, develop self-awareness, and find balance in your life. Don't wait for change to happen. Let's make it happen together. Visit myslc.org to learn how we can transform your journey into one of growth and fulfillment today.
I only went to treatment once.
Okay.
And I think that anybody who's, even if you can't afford to go to treatment, like anybody, you should at least find yourself into a 12-step program. It doesn't work for my lifestyle now.
Okay.
But what I learned that first go around, there's certain things you can't unlearn. So even when I went back out drinking, it kind of ruins it a little bit.
Okay.
So you start drinking harder. And you try to do it again, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this,
Yeah.
and then you do it again, and every time you go back out, it gets worse and worse and worse, because you have to drink more to try to unlearn what you just learned in this 12-step program, which is accountability.
Yeah.
Really, everything comes down to accountability. I think they should be teaching these things in
School.
in kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, the first thing you do is realize that, hey, that maybe you're not in control of your own shit.
Yeah.
Like, drop that ego.
Yeah.
Right? Second one is, hey, maybe not think about yourself as being the most important thing in the world. Maybe find something else that's maybe bigger or stronger than you.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be. Sometimes it ends up being your mom. Sometimes it ends up being like a group of friends. Sometimes for people it's God. Sometimes it's, whatever it can be. It's basically humbling yourself. And then you start looking at yourself and looking at where your part is in everything. If you are having a bad feeling, say you got home, and this is going to sound terrible. I'm sorry. This is just an example. You find out that Craig is cheating on you.
Right.
And you feel awful. The best way to get control of those emotions and how those feelings is finding your part in those things.
Right.
Not saying it's your fault, but your part. So like maybe my part was sometimes your part is that you were just there. That's it. Once you find your part, however small it is, you realize that was a choice. I chose to be there at that time, or I chose to allow this behavior, I chose to ignore this, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You realize it's a choice, and then you don't have to ever make that choice again.
Yeah.
And there's massive power in that, like huge power. Like it could be any situation. And so when you realize that you actually have control over
Your choices.
and what you allow in your own
Yeah.
life. You don't have to deal with your mom's shit. You don't have to put up with your abusive husband. You don't have to deal with your friend who's talking shit behind you. You don't have to. You're choosing to.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I think we're choosing because of fear of being alone. I think you said that maybe
100%.
earlier on of like just, you don't want to be alone and you want to be, and I said that
You want
as
to be
well.
abandoned.
Like, I don't want to be abandoned. I want to be seen. I want to be needed. I want to be heard and loved. And
But why?
so in fear, you allow choices to
Absolutely.
be really shitty for you.
But the key is the fear is why are you afraid? Like where is this abandonment coming from? Like why? That's like the beginning of the tree.
Right. I was just going to say going down to the roots.
Down to the root.
Yeah.
The root is the why.
And see, this is where I'm saying like a lot of people just won't go that deep and hard because it is hurtful sometimes.
It
It is. The truth really sucks when you get to the root
It's
sometimes.
excruciating.
Well,
So-
you gotta take responsibility of what you are responsible for in any situation.
Yeah, and that's what she's saying. What
And
is my part here?
I agree with that 100%. I've got a little different way I do it is what am I in control over? Yeah, and I'm finding out there ain't a whole hell of a lot in this life that I am
Other
control
than
other
you.
than between my two
Yes.
ears
Yeah.
and
People, places,
what I
and
can
things.
do outside
Yeah.
this skeleton. I mean, I'm if I did this. You're not
Yeah.
in control of me putting my hand closer to you.
Correct.
I mean, or if I decided to start swinging at you, you don't have that control.
Yeah, you have no control over people, places, or
Right.
things.
Right. And
Good. Look out for the nouns.
so we start taking,
You're
absorbing
glaring
those
at me.
controls, or thinking we did have any control.
Because we want it so bad.
There's where all the anxiety and all this anger comes because you're mad at yourself. And that's where is this emotion coming from? What is going back to the very
Yeah.
beginning? What is the root?
Where did this start from? Like,
And it doesn't have to be where does it start from? Like my mother programmed me doing this. It can
Could, and often is
and
something
often
really
is,
far back.
because
Yeah.
a lot of our programming is very much our parents doing. But you got to realize they're just products of the programming of their own
Exactly.
self.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you got to, what were they in control of?
That's where that's where I need to
Forgiveness,
find
right.
find forgiveness. You're like, okay, I know that I was not in control this whole time, and I thought I was. I know, and I would be devastated if my kids were to hold that against me as well. So I'm able to find empathy that way and be like, okay, I can let that go. Or I forgive you for XYZ. But I'm still going to remove myself because I obviously see those behaviors haven't changed at all.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
correct.
So that's where those boundaries come in. It's called detaching with love. I love you, but I need to come over here to
Detaching with.
detaching with love.
Oh, okay.
Like
Mhm.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey, no,
Yeah.
there's still love here. There's no love lost.
Yeah.
But to protect myself, I can't allow myself to be around you anymore. Which is huge. Like being your own advocate, like really genuinely loving yourself. I'm doing this thing now, which I'm telling everybody should do. It's amazing.
Okay. Let's
So,
hear it.
I like to, I'm an addict and I have ADHD and I have autism and I'm not everybody's cup of tea and I get that, and so I get down on myself quite a bit. My brain, I call that voice in your head that tells you that you're useless and
Right.
nobody likes you.
Yeah.
I call her that bitch. Like literally, what out loud will say, "This bitch."
Yeah. Yeah.
I will tell her to shut up out loud.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no,
I've
no.
been
Yeah.
finding myself talking to those. They're not me because I
No,
won't. I didn't
no.
say I'm talking to myself. No, I am.
No.
I'm talking to that stupid ass person that just
Exactly.
made those decisions. All
So
those
do you guys
years.
look like all the trank people,
Yes.
the fentanyl people that are out there screaming at
That's
me
what
for-
they're
I'm like,
doing.
oh no.
We're talking to those
Like,
people.
talking to
We're like,
those people.
oh.
I don't
Yeah.
think I'm talking
Yeah.
out loud.
Oh, I thought you said you were.
Sometimes I have, but
yeah.
most of the
I
time
will
I'm-
say it out loud. Like if I'm by myself, I'll go nope, no. Like change
Yeah.
I'll say
Yeah.
change your tone.
Yeah.
To myself
Well,
because
it's parenting yourself. That's what you're doing.
that's exactly
It
what it is.
is,
So
but it's-
now that's what I'm saying. I'm literally parenting myself. I'm trying to see myself as two things.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, how would I talk to somebody, to a friend of mine, to my friend's daughter,
Yeah.
or my seven, like if she was doing something like this, or thinking something like this, how would I talk to her about it? Would I be okay with her calling herself a dumb bitch? Would I be okay with her calling herself? I call myself a piece of shit all the time, or dumb. Oh, you dumb
Yeah.
bitch. Oh, you're so stupid. Like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
falls out.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. Just naturally, I'm so used to doing it. Well, how would I talk to her
Yeah.
about doing that? So now I'm literally talking to myself like a child, like, girl, like you're awesome. The same way I would talk to my own children
Yeah.
or anybody else. Why is it okay for me to talk to me that way? Like it's not okay.
And it's not okay, but we've done
I
it a
love
long
me.
time.
I'm
But there
so
are
funny.
times.
I have my favorite sense of humor.
Yeah.
I get all of my
I'll get my
jokes.
jokes. I think I'm hilarious.
Right? I'm like, oh my god, you
I'm
guys.
so funny. Yeah.
You know?
I think I'm funny.
I've had this theory for a long time. It sounds crazy because we come from a really
I know,
strict Christian
That's
background.
fascinating to me.
And so I've because I studied the Bible and all the other books as well as so much, it's all I got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is actually something I chose to do, and it helped my ADHD. When I could go on a
Well,
study.
he hyper focuses.
I studied
it's your
for 2
hyperfixation.
years.
Yeah.
I studied for 2 years to find out if the Earth was flat or round. I mean, I didn't listen to other people. I listened to everybody's shit, but I had my own decisions that I would make. I had my own. I built my own sundials. I had a fence that has. I mean, and I still can't figure it out.
It was a little bit, if you know the John Nash story, where he's a little bit crazy.
I
at
had
the
post-it
same
notes
time.
all over the
Like,
office.
It was a little bit
it
crazy,
was,
but
yeah. And I also
It's hyper focused. It's not crazy. I totally get
Yeah.
it.
spent
Oh,
2
yeah.
years
Thing.
trying to figure out what the right calendar was, whether it was a Gregorian calendar, whether
Or the
the Enoch
Mayan,
calendar,
yeah.
or the Mayan calendar. I spent, and that
and he built a calendar
that
like that
I
we
built
actually
this whole
used.
calendar
Yeah.
that it correlated with my freaking sundial. So, yeah.
It's because your brain is so desperate to find order, and because our brains, how our brains are, this world is not meant for us, like at all. So we are constantly we're making concessions all the time. I'm totally changing myself for you all the
Yeah,
time, so
yeah.
you are comfortable with
Right, right,
codependency. Because like you were saying, unmothered girls or unmothered people, really,
Yeah,
but really unmothered
yeah,
women.
yeah.
Tend to overmother everything else, and we become very codependent. Because do you know what the definition of codependency is?
I don't, and I don't even know if I had that or if I was.
It's what it is.
I probably was, but I also stood myself up as a very independent person.
Mm-hmm. You
because
can be
that's
both.
why if you ask anyone in my family, they'd be like, you did everything. What do you mean you needed help? What do you
That's-
mean you needed
that's,
this? You never
that's
asked
both.
for anything. You always were doing it yourself. So I stood myself up as very confident, very independent. Where the inside girl, like you would see this, but the inside girl was just like,
the
yeah.
time.
So it's I don't know, a mask. I think you used the word masking
yeah.
before.
It is. So the definition of codependency is the inability to tolerate the discomfort of others. So I
okay.
cannot handle if somebody's in a bad mood, upset. If
Then
are
I
you
guess
hungry?
I'm a yes. for
Yes.
that.
Yeah. So like, are you hungry? You thirsty? Like, what do you need? Like, you're constantly worrying. Like, is everybody okay? Because you're not ever. You can't
So
regulate.
that's why you hammer me with all those questions. That's like it's over annoying, but she in her mind.
She needs you to be okay because
she's
she will not
loving
be
me,
Yes.
taking care of me. 'Cause
Yes,
it's
see?
constant. Do you want a salad with that? No, I don't want a salad. Do you want carrots with that? No, I don't want.
Oh, yeah, and
Do you
probably
want? Do you
yesterday
want? Fuck it, I don't. I want meat and I want beer.
Yeah.
Yesterday in the line, Joshua was like cold. I'm like, here, put on Daddy's jacket. Do you want to wear the cape? He's like, Mom, if you ask me to wear this cape one more time. I said I was chilly, and you're overdoing it.
But it's not. She does love you, but that's not what it is. It's an opposite of love for yourself. You are sacrificing yourself constantly.
And I didn't realize that
Because
till later. in
you're
life.
not comfortable unless they're comfortable. Like you, I cannot be.
Yes.
I can't be still or relax until I know that everybody in my immediate orbit is content.
Yeah.
Because I absorb all. Because I make it all about me.
But when she gets on overload, then it's everybody. I don't give a flying f. If anybody's content, I'm going to my room and reading a book.
If I'm
She's overwhelmed.
if it's too
Yeah.
much. But yeah, I would say some of that is somewhat of a learned behavior too. Like I know that when my mom was still single, just newly divorced, I felt like she was always crying and the house was always sad. So I learned humor
Yep.
to be like, never be sad. Make sure nobody's sad. Make
Yeah.
a joke. Don't let them grieve. Don't let them. And I didn't learn till later in life that like people actually have to be sad. They have to be able to
Have
grieve.
to.
They have to be able to express. But I didn't give people a lot of space to do that. So,
Same.
and I didn't give myself in front of others space to do that. So it was always, let's be fun, let's be happy, let's be fine. Oh, how about you have this and that'll make you happy. Put on this jacket to be warm and then you'll be happy.
You
But
sound just like it's so funny because like you and I are so much alike, and you and Dave are so much alike. He's the
that's-
same way.
You usually do marry that other
Yeah, it's true.
person. But I will say it's really helped us to balance.
balance,
out.
yes.
Because they'll reel you back in and then they'll reel you back in and be like, okay, you need to settle down. But
I
it
think
does.
I
It
think
helps a
that's
lot.
been our biggest strength is the therapeutic we've had. We didn't even know it from the very get-go. It's like, oh, wait a minute. She could tell me, you said, like, how would you treat yourself or speak to yourself? There are times and places for the, hey, shut up, sit down, get behind me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there are, rudeness is something that is part of parenting. You have to,
So you
the
be
parent
firm.
knows a little more than what's going on.
Crazy.
And so
Yeah.
I was saying, going back to what I was saying before, was I thoroughly have the theory that Jesus, those 12 disciples were just 12 of his characters that he
Personalities
had,
in his head.
personalities that he could have been. He could have been in the desert all by his fucking self, and this is all made up.
Yeah.
But he's Peter, shut the fuck up and get behind me. Thomas,
Yeah.
you're a
Judas, stop
doubting son of a
stealing
bitch,
it.
and I'm sick of dealing with you. John, I
stop
love you
stealing
so
it.
much. You know,
Yeah.
and
All these sides of us.
and even from his mother and his sisters, like,
Mm-hmm.
who is my mother? Who is my sister? Who's my brothers? You are the people right around me. I
Yes.
mean, if we would, I said this before, if people would just actually take the words that the fucking man said and live by them,
So
and
that's
get
so
all the
funny.
religion out of it, and
Yes.
take the preacher and tell him to go back behind the house and whatever. Yeah, then we would have
I don't
a
call
whole bunch
Christians
better-
Christians. I call
much
Christians
better life.
Biblists.
You call them what?
They're Biblists or Biblins. So like you're not
Biblists.
Yeah, because you're not following Christ at all. Like I'm not religious. I'm an agnostic. I was an atheist up until about 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And now I see
Yeah.
myself. I'm an agnostic.
Yeah.
Now there's something. I just don't.
Don't know what.
I call it God. I call it the universe. I call it a bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't necessarily believe in, or I don't. I hate organized religion.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the thought just fell right out of my head.
About
Oh
religion.
yeah, no, Christians. Yeah. So I'm like, but if you were to actually pay attention to what he was teaching, like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
Like that's
So,
I'm more Christian than any Christian I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want
And
to-
I don't-
I'm
right?
more Christian now than I ever have been.
Yes. Yes.
And I
But
don't
that's
even,
not-
I don't
I mean,
follow Christ. I don't,
That is not
he's
what
not
the
in my
people
heart.
in
and
those circles are gonna
yeah,
think.
yeah. I don't believe. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
believe in zombies.
I'm not going to hell because I don't believe there is one.
I don't believe there is either.
And I study that, and there is no I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
As for a man who studied the Bible, there is no recollection of hell. You can, it
What
is
do you-
the dump.
That's not the right
It's
word
the
you're saying. That not recollection. There's no like. There's no foundation.
No
for that.
foundation
Yeah.
for their
It's all control.
Yeah.
or heaven either.
Yeah.
But
in fact,
we're-
you're actually a real Jew, a Jewish person who wrote.
We're gonna take a break real
Yeah.
quick, and so we can fill up our drinks, go to the
Okay.
bathroom, and then I do have some questions because
please.
I want to ask more about like, what do we do when we know that someone's in the throes of whether it be an alcohol addiction or things? But don't answer yet, so
Okay.
we'll come back.
Okay.
So stay tuned for the second part of Rebecca's story of what do we do when we see others struggling in this area or any addiction, and also to get to hear a little bit more of her transformation story. So stay tuned for part 2, which will be out in just a few days.